think this is live. First time doing an on-air type thing. Not really, I've done a few podcasts, but yeah, it's interesting talking to myself here. I hope everyone can hear me all right. If you can't, let me know. I'm going to be creating a puzzle demo that I need to present. It's a very primitive type demo, but it's going to consist of a physics-based character controller. I need to be able to push boxes, and I want to have some puzzle element where these boxes are going to be colored red, white, and blue, and you have to align them in that order. So we'll be creating checks for that, and if you do it correctly, it will open up some gate. All right, so this should be pretty good. Let's see here. All right, so I have this Q&A thing open. I'll try and answer any questions you guys have. Yeah, so let's see here. Click this, bear with me, guys, if I'm moving a little slow here. Click the select button to answer a question. Okay, got it. Just working good. Lock. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. Alrighty. One second, guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this page up in here. That goes there. I'm going to put this there too. Don't need that. Okay, and here we go. Unity, Unity, Unity. Alrighty. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do here is I need to set up a playing field. And for this prototype, it needs to be, and it looks like we got people. Hold on. Okay, so here we go. First thing I gotta do, guys, for this prototype is it needs to be a still frame, so the camera can't move. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'm gonna set up a floor here, and then I'm going to go ahead and make it so I can just have kind of like a semi top-down view. All right, so I'm gonna rename this to floor. And you know, I'm gonna go ahead and make it 15 by 15. And we'll go ahead and add a directional light in here. I'm just going to make that -30, or just 30 by -30. Alrighty, and we'll tint it down a bit. Alright, so I don't really like that blue background there, so I'm actually going to go into 2D mode here and use a background sprite that I have. So open this up, put that in there. Alright, I'm going to go up here to texture type because it's a JPEG, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a sprite. Alright, and we're just going to drop that in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and name that background. All right, I really don't. This is nothing art related, so it's okay if it doesn't really look that great. It's the functionality of this puzzle that's important. All right, so here's our level. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to manipulate our camera here. So our main camera, it's going to set it to 0. It's going to look down. Maybe up a bit. Oops. Further out. And okay, so this is going to be our playing field here. Main camera is 7, -13. Our floor, let's go ahead and zero that out actually. Okay, this is going to be perfect for what I need. Let's see. All right, so there are like 3 people viewing here, so I hope you guys can hear me. If there's any questions, just post them and I'll get a notification. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and actually set up a physics-based character controller from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just set up a capsule here. It's going to act like our character controller. All right, let me just get in this view actually. I'm just going to raise them above the ground for now. I'm going to go and rename that to player. All right, and I'm going to be using the character controller component. All right, the character controller is going to allow me to create my own physics-based character controller without the use of a rigid body. It's just better on performance, and overall allows me more possibilities. I can create my own calculations, and I can control how I want things to be touched or moved based on physics. So I'm going to go and create this from scratch using a character controller. Just to show you real quickly, the character controller has a very important function in here called the move function. All right, and that's what I'll be using if you want to look at it. The character controller, it's got a move function here, and this move function is going to allow me to actually move our character controller, and I can check for physics. I can check for physics-based movements and physics-based events off of certain functions that are provided with the character controller. So what I'm going to do here is just going to organize some stuff. Let's create a spreads folder. Put that in there. Let's see here. Scripts folder here. Alrighty. Alright, so I'm going to go and create our player script now. I'm going to put it on our player. And notice that on the character controller, I removed the capsule collider. That's because the character controller allows me to actually check for collision events on its own. So if I kept the capsule collider and I ran into some triggered event or collision event, it would actually register twice. So that's why I removed it. All right, so let's go ahead and create this guy's controller. All right, we're going to start off with an initial speed. So we got private float speed, and we'll say, let's set it equal to about 5f right now. All right, so speed is 5. I need a jump height, how I can jump. That's funny. Someone goes, it is 1 a.m. and I have programming class in the morning, but I'd rather watch this. I appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and create our jump variable here. I'm going to set that about twice our speed, so 10.0f. From there, I need to incorporate gravity. I'm not using a rigid body, so there's no check for is gravity, so I actually need to create that myself here. So I'm going to say private float, and I'm going to gravity. I'm going to set that to about 1. I know gravity is negative 9.8 meters per second squared, and that's how it works on a rigid body. However, in order to get a lifelike physics fall with the character controller, it's best to have this value pretty low, actually, and you'll see why once we get it moving. Speed, jump height, gravity. All right, and then what I also need, let's see, for now we should be good with these variables. So I'm going to go down here and update, and I need to move this character controller forward, backwards, left, and right using the WSAD keys or the arrow keys, which are mapped to the horizontal inputs. So I could say float h equals input.getAccess. I use the horizontal inputs. And I can do the same thing for float v equals input.getAccess and vertical. All right, this is going to map the arrow keys. Now I'm going to go ahead and create direction for my character. So vector3 direction, because we're dealing with position, a change in position. And the direction is going to be based on my user input, which is my WSAD keys. So the x-axis is A and D, which is float h, and the 0 for y. And then to go forward and backwards, I'm going to use the WS keys, which is mapped to V. So this is going to allow me to choose my direction. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another position variable of type velocity, which is just direction multiplied by my speed. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and actually just test out the movement here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my character controller, and I actually have to create a handle to that. So I'm going to go ahead and say private character controller, and then in void start, I need to assign it to the controller. Alrighty. Here's our character controller, and now I need to use the move function. Controller.move, and then I'm going to move by velocity times time, that delta time, to incorporate real time. All right, let's go ahead and test that out. Let's go to Unity here. All right, let's see what happens. All right, we got an error. Literal of type double cannot be converted. I'm missing an F somewhere. Okay, 1.0F. All right, so input axis vertical is not set up, which means I spelled that incorrectly. I did. All right, there we go. So I'm moving around right now. Now, you'll notice, though, I'm actually in the scene view, I'm kind of off the ground. So we need to actually, this is where we're going to incorporate gravity. And then I'll also go ahead and create the jumping. So let's go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do here is in my player, I need to apply gravity. I need to be touching the ground, obviously, right? You can't move if you're not on the ground, so I shouldn't be able to move if I'm not on the ground. So it's a simple if statement. If I'm not grounded, now how do I check if I'm not grounded? Or how do I check if I am grounded? The character controller has a function that allows me to check it. So I can just call my character controller .isGrounded function. This checks the bottom of my character controller to see if my feet are touching a collider. So if controller.isGrounded equals true, then I can jump. So my jump code is going to go here. Jump code goes there. Else, I need to apply gravity. So I'm going to go ahead and say velocity.y minus equals gravity. All right. So let's go ahead and test this out. I should be grounded. And there we go. You'll see I'm falling. All right, now I'm moving around. I'm on the ground. So let's go and create the jumping. So for the jumping, I'm just going to use the space key to jump. So basically, if, right? So if input get key down, because when I hit the down on the space key, I want to jump. And I'm going to go ahead and set my velocity.y plus equals, or I have to set it equal to jump height. All right, now here's an interesting problem that I had when doing this. What's going to happen is I will be able to jump, but it's actually going to be like a very minor stutter. So you'll see that like I can jump. I don't even know if you can see it through the Hangout. There's a stutter. And the reason why that's happening is because we need to go back through our code. Void update runs about 60 frames per second. Okay, so 60 times in 1 second, all of this is getting ran. And what happens is we're doing the mapping our inputs like WSAD keys, all good, and all good. We have our direction here, which is based on our index, which is based on our keys, which is fine. But look at this. So the x-axis is h, the z-axis is v. I'm saying direction on the y-axis is just a 0, a hard-coded 0. Velocity equals direction, which is based on my input multiplied by speed. Okay? Now that's not a problem. The problem is when I jump. I'm saying velocity.y, which equals direction on the y, which is 0, equals jump height, which means it eventually will equal 10. Okay, it's eventually going to equal 10. And then next frame, okay, it does all this again, but I'm no longer grounded. So look what happens. This gets called. So velocity.y, which is 10 right now, minus equals gravity, which is 1, which means it's 9. That's not a problem. But then when you get on the third frame, it's now 9. On the third frame, okay, the vector3 direction, and actually it probably is the second frame, but vector3 direction is still 0 on the y, and velocity is also 0 on the y. So it's resetting the velocity back down to 0. So basically it's snapping from 10 to 0, 10 to 0 every frame because we're telling it to technically do that. So what we need to do is we actually need to cache what our actual velocity is. The way I can simply do this is actually create a private, I'm just going to create a variable that's going to hold what my velocity should be. So I'm going to go ahead and say y velocity equal to 0.0f. But when I jump, I'm not going to change my actual velocity.y. I'm going to change that y velocity variable, which is going to equal jump height. Remember, that's just what it's just holding. It's holding what my velocity should be. And same thing for gravity. So y velocity minus equals gravity. And when I do this, it's still not going to work because now I'm not making any effect with my velocity.y. So before I move, I need to say velocity.y equals my variable that holds what my y velocity should be. So now, when I run this, you're going to see we have a very nice working jump and everything's all smooth. All right, it might look a little laggy on the screen, but it's actually very smooth in the game. And now I can perfectly jump and fall because what's happening now is when I jump, this value gets set to 10. At the very end of the frame before I move, my velocity.y equals 10. It gets reset, but then at the bottom of the frame, it gets reset back to what it is. So it happens so quickly you can't see it to the naked eye, but technically what's happening is I'm going from 10, 0, 9, 0, 8, 0, 7, 0, all the way until I'm grounded again. But it happens so quickly you can't see it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with this character controller I'm going to need for now, but I think this is okay. If you have any questions about this so far, just comment on it. If you guys can't see my code editor, or if you want me to zoom in more, just let me know. But I think we're good on the movement here. I'm pretty happy with this movement. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and start working on the puzzle elements of the boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and just create 3 boxes here. All right, we're going to name this box 1. I'm just going to duplicate that. Box 1, box 1, box 2. And box 3. Alrighty, let's see here. So what I'm going to do now with these boxes is in order for me to actually move them, they need a rigid body because I need to somehow add force to them when I run into them. Now, I don't have a rigid body on my character, but that doesn't mean the objects I touch don't need them. All right, they do need them in order for me to interact with physics. So I have these 3 cubes, and to distinguish them, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give them materials. The puzzle idea is that you have to line these boxes up in the red, white, and blue color, all right, like the American flag. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and color code them, and I was thinking of doing lazy and doing it through script, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and just create 3 materials anyways, just for visual purposes now. So create a materials folder, and on box 1 here, we'll go ahead and create a new material. This will be box 1, duplicate it, box 2, box 3, so box 1 gets box 1. Go ahead and assign those real quick. All right, let's see here. So box 3 is going to be blue. All right, box 2 is going to be white. Maybe white's a bad one, but it's going to make it, yeah, we'll make it white, I guess. All right, and then this is going to be red. All right, so we got red, white, and blue. All right, the idea of this puzzle is that you need to push them into a certain area and they have to line up as red, white, and blue. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. I have these things color coded, and I think the next thing is to figure out the movement of these boxes. I need to be able to move them. So one thing I know I need is I need to interact with physics so I can add force to these boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of them. We need to add a rigid body here. All right, let's see. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. So on these boxes here, we have our rigid bodies attached, and if I go ahead and run this, everything's just going to fall to the ground, which is what we want. Now, what I need to happen is you'll see I can run into these boxes, but nothing happens. What I need to do is I need to check to see if I'm actually colliding with it, and I do that through a function that's provided on the character controller, and that function is on controller collider hit, I believe, and it's part of the character controller. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to head over to the scripting references to check it out, just to make sure I have the syntax correct on that. So I'm going to click on my player here. All right, let's go and look at this. Okay, right here, on controller collider hit. On controller collider hit is called when the controller hits a collider while performing a move. Perfect. This can be used to push objects when they collide with the character. And look at that, they give me exactly what I'm looking for in this example. So I'm actually going to go ahead and build off this example. You can see here they have a push power, so we'll have a variable for that. They have the function itself. They're using controller collider hit here, and then this variable hit, that stores whatever my character controller hits so I can access it later. Then they're caching the rigid body of the object we hit. They're checking to see if the rigid body is null or if it's is kinematic. Then return, which means do nothing. And then if hit.moveDirection.y is less than this, return. Okay, so this function here, I'm assuming what this means is that it means you can't push objects that are below you. It means you can't push objects like down, I guess, which is good. You don't want to do that. And then here's the actual important function here. Vector3, the push direction, equals a new vector3, and it's the hit.moveDirection.x, which would be the move direction of the object we hit on the x, and same for the z. Okay, it looks like what we're doing is we're saying we're giving it velocity in the push direction multiplied by the power. So we'll go ahead and we're going to piece their example together, and we'll see if we need to modify it a tad bit. But for the most part, we'll use what they're trying to tell me to do here. So we'll see how that works out. All right, so I'm going to go inside here on player. And what I'm going to do here is I need a push power variable. I need to know how much force to add. So I'm going to go ahead and just create that. You might notice also that all my variables here are private. The reason why I'm doing this is because I picked up a coding standard where later in my game, I have a spawn manager or a GUI manager. Does it really need access to my speed variable or my jump height variable or my gravity variable? Not really, right? If I wanted to, I could create, what's called properties. I haven't talked about properties in my videos, so if you don't know what it is, it's a subject for another day. But if I'm not using properties, I'm pretty much just going to always have a private variable. Now, if I want to keep a variable private, but I want to still manipulate it in the inspector, I can actually still do something called serializing a field. If you were to put array brackets and inside it say serialized field over a variable that's private, it will actually show it in the inspector. As you'll see here, player, I can now manipulate the speed, and I can actually change it to whatever I want, and it will take effect. And it's still private, so no one else has access to it, which is what I want. So just a really cool little hack you guys can do if you want to keep private variables but still manipulate them in the inspector or check them, visually. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I need to do this push stuff. So I need a variable for the push force. So I'm going to go and say private float, and then we're going to say push power. I don't like power, so I'm going to say push force. So the push force equals 2.0 F. All right. And then let's see here. I need to go ahead and create that function that's going to allow me to do stuff. And also, you guys might notice my update method looks disgusting right now with all this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and clean that up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and say void movement. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy everything inside there and just put it inside the void movement function. And then go into update, clear it out, and just call my movement function. Exact same thing, and now I have a cleaner update. But what I have here now is it's going to do my void on controller collider. I hope I spelled this right. And then I need to do controller collider hit and then hit. Now hit is the object I actually hit. It's what I hit. Just like on trigger enter col or on trigger enter other, the other is the object that collided with you. So hit is the object that collided with me or that I collided with. It's what I hit. So in an automatic way if I run into something. So just to confirm that, let's go and just send a debug here. Hit, let's go and debug.log the name of the item. So I'm going to say hit and then hit.name.transform.name. That's going to give me the name of the item we hit, or name of the object with a rigid body that we hit. So let's go and test that out. I'm sorry, it's the hit of anything with a collider. So right now it says hit floor, and hit box 3, hit box 2, and hit box 1. So right now we're in the right direction. And once I'm just going to go and check the comments real quick, see if anyone's commenting. Alrighty, it's 1 a.m. and I'm programming. A while ago I was working on Union and saw on Facebook that you were doing this hangout, so here I am. Awesome, glad you're here. Thank you, and that's it. Okay, so what we are going to do now is I need to push these boxes. So let's go and do that. So according to the reference manual, they had some vector3 push direction, which makes sense. I need a direction to push the box in, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create that variable right here. So I have a vector3 push direction. And then that's going to equal to a new vector3. And it's going to equal to the direction on what I hit on their x position and z position. Okay, I can't move an object up and down, so the y is going to be 0. So I can move an object along the x position. So I'm going to say hit dot move direction, and then dot x. And then I can also say 0 for y, and then hit dot move direction dot z. All right, now what I need to do is I need to grab the object's rigid body that I hit. And you should cache this. So I'm going to actually do that first. I'm going to say hit equals, I'm sorry, not hit equals. You got to say rigid body and then name it, let's say rigid equals the hit dot collider. You can get the rigid body, I think, by dot rigid body, yeah. But they want you to use attached rigid body. I believe it's the same thing, but I'll go with that. So we have our rigid equals that. So this variable holds the rigid body of the game object we hit. So now that we have that, what I need to do is I need to do the push direction. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, I'm going to say rigid. I'm going to get the velocity of it, and you'll see here it says public vector3 velocity, and then it says get and set. I can get the velocity of the object I hit, and I can set the velocity of the object I hit. So what I want to do is I want to set the velocity, and it's going to be set to the push direction multiplied by my push force. All right. Now there's one more thing here that I need to check. If what I collide with doesn't have a rigid body, and I call this rigid body dot velocity function right here, and I equal it to this, it's going to give me a null reference exception error because the object that I did this on doesn't have a rigid body. So what I need to do is I need to say rigid body rigid equals hit, and then I need to check if the rigid body is null. So if rigid not equal null, meaning that the rigid body exists, and we also need to check for is kinematic, which means and if rigid body not equal null and rigid dot is kinematic equals false. Okay, what that means is that if it's true, there's no physics. So like if is kinematic is true, it means ignore physics. We don't want to ignore physics. We need to use velocity. So I'm checking to make sure there is a rigid body, and I'm checking to make sure that is kinematic is false, which means that it's a rigid body object that can be affected by forces. And if that's the case, we're going to go ahead and do this. And so if all those conditions are true, then we're going to go ahead with this code here. And let's go ahead and see if we need anything else here. And let's go ahead and test this out. All right, so everything's going to fall. All right, let's go ahead and push it. All right, and there you go. So we got kind of a push. You see that? You can kind of knock these objects. Now that's not really what I wanted. I kind of want a smooth push. So what I need to do now is I need to figure out how do I get that smooth push. The reason why this is happening is it's dragging on the floor. So what I'm wondering is on these boxes here, and better yet, we're going to try a few things here. So I have a drag of 0 on the boxes already. I have an angular drag. Let me set that to 0 as well. I don't really know if that's going to affect anything. Probably not. Okay. I think there's too much friction on my floor. That's causing the box to do this. So what I need to do is on the floor, I'm actually going to create a physics material. And I'm going to say no friction. And we'll see if that covers it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click my project view, go to physics material, and I'm just going to name it floor. All right, and dynamic friction 0, static friction 0, bounciness 0. Friction combined, and then I'm just going to go ahead and attach that to my, click on the floor here, and in the box collider, there's a physics material slot. So if I go ahead and test it out now, you'll see now I have a nice smooth movement on my boxes. It's no longer trampling over the floor because what was happening is the velocity of the rigid body on the box was causing friction with the floor. So now I can move these boxes, which is exactly what I want. Now that I can move these boxes, I guess it's time I can start setting up like an area to put them in. What I want to do first, actually, though, is I want to create the door or the event that happens when you get the puzzle right. And basically, there's going to be some door here that's going to lift, it will rise. We'll say, it will rise up. Or maybe we'll make a door and we'll have like an animation just open for it. And in order for it to open, you have to get the puzzles lined up in red, white, and blue. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to just move these boxes over here for a second. Let's put that one there. This one here. All right, and for this door, I'm going to go ahead and create a folder here for physics materials. Actually, I think it can go inside here, but I don't really know. I'll create a folder for it. Physics materials. Physics materials. Oh, I do not like that. All right, guys, I'm just going to put that in the materials folder. Okay. So here we go. Let's see what is next here. It's 1 a.m. and I program class in the morning, but I'd rather watch this. I'm going to go ahead and mark that it's answered. That's an awesome statement. A while ago, I was working on Unity and saw on Facebook that you were doing this. Awesome. Great. Thanks for coming. How's everyone doing tonight? I'm going to go ahead and put that away. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do this door here. And I'm going to use the animation editor in Unity to actually create the door opening. So you'll be able to see how I work with that just a bit. What I need to do here is I'm going to build just a really simple door here, just with primitive cubes. So we'll say this is going to be here. So this is where the door is. So we're going to go ahead and say this will be we'll say left side, and then we'll duplicate that, and then this will be right side. All right, what I'm going to do now is this is just like where the stand. This is like the the walls really. So left side wall and right side wall. I'm going to go and just raise them up 5 or 4, I guess. All right, and what we're going to do now, and actually I wonder if this should actually be lower for depth reasons. Are you going to do these regularly? How long will they be? Well, if this works out, I mean, if you guys enjoy this, or if you like seeing me, do random stuff like this when I have to, I wouldn't mind doing this maybe a couple times a week or once a week. It's a lot easier to do this type of stuff than plan out a fully interactive tutorial. But depending on also how many viewers, like right now we only have 5 people in here, but it's also 1:30 in the morning. But if this gets paused, I mean, even for 5 people, I really don't care. Like I enjoy doing this, so if you guys like it, then I can make it a regular thing. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is, let's see. And how long will they be? I didn't answer. Typically, usually I'm mapping this one out. This one should only take me maybe an hour to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at max. It's not really that difficult what I'm doing, but you never know. I may run into complications, and it will give you guys the opportunity to watch me debug something in real time, which I have done on my YouTube videos, but you'll actually see me go through the process without being able to pause or anything like that. So it'll be interesting. All right, so we're here creating our door. I'm going to actually just make this right side wall even with the other one. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a sliding door here that we're going to create. So this is the left side wall, the right side wall, and I'm going to actually go ahead and just create the door now. This is going to be the door. Say sliding door. Sliding door. All right, and that's going to get positioned right in here. And what's going to happen with this, just so we can get some discoloration, I'm going to make this a different color here. We'll give it a material. I'm going to go and name that sliding door. And we'll have the door be, let's make it, here, we'll make it like a pinkish purple. Put on the sliding door. All right, and what's going to happen here is, and actually, if you guys want, 2 a.m. from Venezuela. Oh, nice, very cool. Let's see. All right, you guys can ignore Kelton. What we're gonna do here is, let's see here, shattered sliding door. I'm actually here. You know what? If you guys like, you guys can pick. Would you like to have this sliding to the left, to the right, up, or down? It can do whatever you guys like. We're gonna animate it through the animation view. So again, maybe we can do that way, or we can have it go up or down. Yeah, I can do that. Did I not do that? Did I not select answers and make them go on the sidebar? I think I did. Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, so here we go. Here, I'm gonna just stretch this out a bit. So we're looking at about 2, 3. Okay, so here we go. So we got our wall here, and make it 3. And what's gonna happen, guys, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. It's gonna actually go down like this into the floor, and you'll be able to walk through it. So that's what the outcome is going to be. So before I actually jump in the animation view and animate this, I'm actually going to create an empty game object and parent all of these elements together, just for organization purposes. So I'm going to just go ahead and create an empty game object, and it's going to be named door. I'm going to go ahead and put all 3 parts in it. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and animate this. In order to do that, I need to open the animation view. And what I'm going to do here is, in the animation view, I'm going to click the object I want to animate, which is the door. And I'm going to just go ahead and click record, create a new clip. This is going to be door. We're going to just name it door anim. All right, door animation. And right now I'm in record mode, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, right now I'm starting at the 0 frame, and no, you can answer questions so they don't stay in the cyber after you answer them. Okay, Kelton, explain how I do that real quickly. Because I don't see any questions. Now you can answer questions so they don't stay in the sidebar. I hit select, currently answering, I hit done, and then it goes away. Answered, oh, answered questions. Right. You want me to hit select or something, or what? Is that what's happening here? They go away? All right, 1 second, guys. Sorry. Let me go ahead and do that so I can clean it up. All right, wow, there's a lot of questions here. So you know what? I'm going to let that just bypass for now. Answering. Okay, it's answered questions, questions, back to questions. Oh, he's just picking on me. Okay, all right, I gotcha. Okay, cool stuff. Thanks for telling me. All right, so here we go. So we're going to go and animate this. So I'm starting on the 0 frame, and what I want to do is I'm just going to go ahead and basically, I'm just going to go ahead and move it down. So, oh my God, whoops, don't want to do that. I moved down the whole thing. I just want to move down the actual sliding door. So I'm going to go ahead and say move it down. All right, and I'm right there. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take this animation thing, and I'm going to move it to about the 30 frame mark. All right, and if we go ahead and play it, whoops, sorry, actually, hold on. I need to actually have 2 keyframes here. So the first keyframe, whoops, the first keyframe is this here, the sliding motion. I'm going to click here. Oh my gosh, it's not letting me do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and down. So now I have I'm going to click where on like the 30th frame or before that. I'm going to slide it down, and the animation is going to start on the 0th frame, and then it's going to end here. So if I go ahead and test this, you'll see there's my sliding door, and I can slow it down if I'd like. I'm going to do like 32 frames, and we have a nice sliding down motion. All right, so that's perfect right now for what I want, and maybe even a little slower. Let's make it 18, and that looks pretty good. And real quick, I can just go back here. I can move this line. Yeah, right there. So, and you'll see it goes down, and we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and I'm happy with that animation. I'm just going to go ahead and create a folder for my animations here. Animations. We have our door controller, door anim. This is also going to use the mechanism animation system, so you'll see me script a little bit of mechanism. I haven't done a video on mechanism, but I probably should. But we will. All right, Kelvin, you're driving me nuts, dude. So what we're going to do here is at the end, when you get the puzzle right, it's going to trigger a mechanism animation event that's going to cause the door to slide down, and we'll be able to pass through it. So it's going to be pretty cool. Take your time, you don't mind. Thanks, Elias. And all right, we're good. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. All right, so what I'm going to do now, guys, is I have that animation. I'm going to go ahead and set up now, how do I know if these puzzles are in the proper spaces? In order to do this, I need trigger zones. I need trigger zones to check if this box was placed in the right spot. So what I'm going to do here is, because I don't have that much room here, I'm going to go and just pick an area that I want to be able to work in. So I'm going to go ahead and just take these boxes here, and I'm going to bring them forward just a bit more. Oops. All right, and I'll have to fix that one, but just for now, we're going to put them right here. And then, actually, no, I guess I can move them over too. All right, so what's going to happen here is I'm going to have to push these boxes to the back corner where the player is currently, and it has to be in order of red, white, and blue. All right, so the way I'm going to do that is I need a trigger zone. I need trigger zones that check for each individual box. So box 1 is red, box 2 is white, and box 3 is blue. All right, it doesn't really matter that the triggers know the color. It's more so how I'm designing it. I'm designing it so that the trigger is looking for the name of box 1, box 2, box 3. Maybe I should actually just name these. No, I'm going to keep box 1, box 2. So the trigger zone is going to check for box 1, box 2, and box 3. And I'm going to have to create another system that's going to check to see if the other triggers have the correct names in their spot. And if they all line up, then the puzzle is completed. If they don't line up, then nothing's going to work. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and create a trigger zone for these boxes. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to duplicate the boxes of each and turn them into triggers. And you'll see how I do that. So I'm just going to go in here in the scene view. I'm going to click on box 1 here. I'm going to duplicate that. We're going to position it out here. I'm going to remove the mesh renderer, and I'm going to remove the mesh. I'll keep the mesh filter. Actually, no, I'm going to remove the mesh filter as well. So now all I have is an empty game object with a rigid body, which I don't need. Actually, just kidding. I do need that for on-triggered events. On-triggered events can't be used unless they have a rigid body. I'm going to keep gravity on, and I'm going to do is kinematic, though, and actually uncheck gravity. So what I'm doing here now is I'm going to do is trigger on this box, and I'm looking here for the red box. Okay, so the red box needs to be positioned in this area. I'm going to go ahead and widen it just a bit more, just in case the accuracy isn't exactly correct. So I'm just going to go and make this maybe 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5. All right, so that's going to be our red trigger zone, and I'll give it some spacing for each one. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here. That's box 1. This will be box 2. All right, so we'll move that one over. So box 1 is there, box 2 is here. And I just want to make sure they're not touching. Yeah, they're not good. All right, and then box 2 will become box 3's trigger zone. So rename this to box 3. All right, Kelton, dude, I have no idea what your problem is. All right, so here we go. So we have our 3 trigger zones here. And I just need to move this one out, and we should be good. Make sure none of them are touching each other. All right, so there's our 3 trigger zones. So what I need to do is I need to push them into those proper spots. So what I need to do now is I need to have a script that checks for the name of the object. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and down here and create a scripts, and I'm basically going to create a checkbox script basically. So check let's say check square. All right, I need to know if this trigger zone is the right one, and let me just make sure we have this logic right here's box 1. Box 1 needs to go into box 1, trigger zone. So I need to check in this specific trigger zone for this one. And I'm trying to think how I can do this with 1 script instead of doing 3 trigger scripts. And I think we're going to go ahead and do it this way. So what I can do here in this trigger script is I can have a string variable that's going to be public, and it's going to be public string, we'll say name to check for. All right, the name to check for. And what I'll be able to do is just put in the name of the box, and that's going to be the one it's checking for. So what I can do here is void on trigger enter. Right? And on trigger enter is called whenever a collider enters the trigger. We're going to do collider other. Right, my videos I use col, but you know, other may make more sense for some. So what we're going to do now is an on trigger enter here. I'm just going to go ahead and debug.log, check and see if I have the right box. So I need to check and see first if the other has the right name. So if other.name is equal to the name to check for. So if it's the name to check for, then debug.log correct box. That's going to tell me if I have the correct box in that trigger, basically. Else we can say else not the correct box. Log not the correct box. All right, and actually, guys, I just need to change this a bit. I can't use on trigger enter. That's only called once. I need to use on trigger stay. All right, so let's go ahead and just test this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and take this check square, and I'm going to put it on all 3 of the triggers. And I'm actually going to name these box 1 trigger, box 2 trigger, and box 3 trigger. We're going to go ahead and put this on all 3 of those. Okay, so check this out. So for each script, I can put a different name. So for instance, this trigger here, it depends on also how I want this to work. I want, so red is going to be here, I guess. And this is box 2, box 3, yeah. Okay, so we'll say red needs to be closest to the door. All right, so I'm looking for here, box 1. So red, white, and white is box 3, I believe. Or I'm sorry, white is box 2. So for box 2 trigger, it needs to be white. So name to check for is going to be box 2. And then box 3, box 3. Box 3, box 1, that needs to be capital B. All right, box 1. And to check for box 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this out. Welcome back, Kitty Pie. All right, so right now the animation's automatically playing with the door. The reason being is because I didn't actually change it from the default animation. I'll fix that in just a second. But eventually what we're going to do is we're going to play it. We're going to tell it to not loop like it is, but it's only going to play once. But it's going to be pretty cool. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and move these boxes here. I'm going to try not to, you know what? I don't want to fall off the map, so I need to move these back a bit. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do these. All right, they're not touching, right? Okay, good. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and run this. All right, and if I put the red one in, so it says not the correct box. The reason why it's doing that, guys, is it's actually colliding right now with the floor. I'm actually going to tell it to ignore the floor. All right, so the floor is just the it's just the name is floor. So here, before I do anything, I'm just going to go ahead and say if other dot name equals floor, then do nothing. All right, and there's obviously a better way, I'm sure, to do this, but for quick purposes, I'm going to do it this way. So if other name is floor, just do nothing, and then we'll check for that. Although actually it's still going to have the not correct box, I think, so we may need to recorrect that. Okay, yeah, we're going to need to recorrect that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a check for a certain tag then. Instead of names else, oh here, no, I'm sorry guys, I can just do it right here. If other.name equals floor, do nothing. do nothing, and then we'll have another else here. All right, there we go. That should allow us to continue. All right, there. Okay, so this is not the correct box. And it's, my gosh. All right, guys, hold on. That's going to drive me nuts. Okay, so it's colliding with the floor. I just need to talk to ignore the floors. So I need this all to run too, though. Else. Okay, if other.name not equal floor. Though now let's see. Hold on, guys, drawing a blank here. I need to ignore the floor. I need to tell the collision. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. All right, you guys are gonna see me use what's called layers in Unity. All right, this isn't really the best time to use layers, but you know what? It's a very great way to fix this. These box triggers are colliding with the floor, and they shouldn't be. So these are gonna have their own layers. So add layer, and these are trigger zones, right? So I'm just gonna say triggers. All right, I need the trigger layer to ignore the floor layer, which is going to be a floor. And actually, I have a video on layer masks, which kind of covers layers. But what you're going to see me do now is I'm going to tell these two to ignore each other. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and Physics. All right, and I get these little check boxes here on the side. I want the floor and the triggers to ignore each other. So I'm going to say, there. I just unchecked triggers on the floor one, and now they can't talk to each other. So if I run this, oops. Okay, hold on. Still running not correct box though. But okay, I think this is why. So 1 second. If other.name equals correct box, let's say debug.log. Not the correct box. Let's see. My God, kill me. All right, 1 second. I need to find out what that object is. So other.name. Maybe it's not the floor. Oh my God, guys. Do you see this? It was me standing in the way the whole time. Okay, well. My bad, guys. I was standing in the way. Okay, now there's no problems. The floor is still being ignored, which is fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and move this red box into the trigger zone. And I'm going to highlight the trigger zone in the scene view here so we can see it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move it into that box. All right, and it looks like it might be too high. Okay, there we go. So I move it down and it says correct box. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually move that red box out of there. Move it out. I'm going to go and put this blue box in there. And it will say not the correct box, box 3. So now we have our system in place where it knows what puzzle it's looking for. So real quickly, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm just going to go ahead and set these lower to the ground, these trigger zones. Yeah, they seem to be really high up. Okay, so trigger zones are good. I'm going to go ahead and stop this animation. And the way you do that, guys, is I'm just going to go and click on the door. You'll see it's an animator. Apply root motion doesn't really matter. You can have it checked or unchecked. It's not really a big deal. I usually uncheck it. In 2D games, it kind of makes your player float up. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell it not to be the default animation. I'm going to create a state that's going to get triggered to play this winning event of opening the door. The way I'm going to do that is I have to go into the animator view, and you'll see here it's highlighted orange. That means it's the default. So I'm going to say I need to right click. I need to create a new state. All right, and it's going to be an empty state. And I'm going to go ahead and set that as the default. That way nothing happens. If I run the game, nothing happens. See that? The door doesn't move. Now what I need to do though is I need to create a transition from the new state to the door. And the door is just going to be a trigger. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to say here, new trigger, I'm going to say open door. All right, and the transition for that is open door, and that's what's going to happen. So what's going to happen here is if I click this trigger now, the door opens. All right, now it's still looping, and the reason why is because the wrap mode is set to that. The way you can actually change that is right here. Just click on the anim, loop time 0. And if you run it, and I trigger, there you go, it stays down. All right, so now we have our working door, and it works really well. I'm happy with that. So it's only going to happen once I get the red, white, and blue in their respected areas. Let's see here. Okay, so now what I need to do now, guys, is I need to check if all 3 of them are in the correct areas, okay? So what I'm going to do is in this script, I'm going to have a bool that says, I'm going to have a few bools. I'm going to have public bool, say box 1 correct, or box 1 in place maybe, or I don't like that. Public bool box 1 say correct, yeah. Okay, so public bool box 1 correct equals false by default. All right, and we're going to do the same thing for all of them. I can just copy that. I'm going to go and do that. So box 1, box 2, box 3. All right, so you have box 1 correct, box 2 correct, box 3 correct. Just going to check the comments real quickly. Okay, nothing new. Good. All right, so here we go. So box 1 correct, box 2 correct, box 3 correct. By default, they're all false. Now, what happens if it's the correct box? I need to know which one it was, right? So if other.name equals name to check for, what I need to do is I need to, oh, actually, you know what? One end is the best way to do it, actually. Because each script is going to have these 3 bools, and I don't know if that's a good idea. So I'm actually going to redo that. I had the name to check for. I need to check and see correct box. I need to signify to something that they're all in the same spot. They all need to communicate to one script. So actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a game manager. And the game manager is going to know if all the boxes are in the correct spot or not. All right, and actually, this will be a good time for me to introduce a singleton manager, if you're not familiar with them. A singleton manager basically is a manager class that allows you to lazily instantiate, which means it only applies in the game when you call on it. And then also, it's just better on performance. It's a great object-oriented way of programming and allows you to keep everything really organized, and it uses what's called properties. It's not really my place right now to explain a singleton in detail, but I'll try and try my best as I go along. So I have a game manager script here, and I'm going to create a game manager object. All right, and actually, I'm not going to create a game manager object because I want to show you what lazy instantiation is. I'm going to go and just open up game manager here. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and say we have public. I'm sorry. These are going to be static variables. Static variables run along all classes in your project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say private static game manager, which is the type of the class, and I'm going to say underscore instance. This is the instance of the class. When you're working with a singleton, there can only be one instance. So usually singletons are only on manager classes. Ideally, objects that aren't destroyed. So like a spawn manager, a GUI manager, a game manager. All right, now what I need to do is create another static variable, but this one's going to be public, and it's going to be static game manager, but this one's going to be instance with a capital I, and then I'm just going to do these brackets. What this is called here is a property. Okay, this is a property. An example of a property is if you type time.time, if you were to type, okay, hold on, this property needs some setters. It needs a getter and a setter, but you can just use one or the other. So and it needs to return something. I'm just going to say return null for while I'm explaining. Okay, so check this out. Here's a property. If I were to say, oh my goodness, what is wrong with this? Yeah, return null. Hold on. I need to get my tooltip back for you guys. Okay, check this out. So if I were to type time.time, Notice how it says public static float time, and then it says get. That get is a property. It means that you can get the value of time.time, but you can't change the value of time.time. And if you were to type time.time scale, notice it says get set. That means you can get the value of time scale and you can change the value of the time scale. So what I'm doing here is I'm allowing other scripts to get information from the game manager, but I'm not allowing them to set information. So I'm not even going to include the set. I'm just going to allow the get, and it's going to return the instance. Right? And what it's going to allow me to do is it will allow me to access all public information from the game manager. What I'm also going to do here is I need to check if the instance exists. If it doesn't exist, I need to create it. And this is what lazy instantiation is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and say if the instance is null, which is the underscore. So if it equals null, meaning it doesn't exist, I need to create this object. So I'm going to say game object and then go, could be anything, could be Isaac, go, whatever. I'm just naming go for game object equals a new game object. This is how you actually instantiate an object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to name it. So what is the name of this game object? It's game manager. All right, game manager. Now what I need to do is once the game manager has been spawned, I need to add a component to it. So I say go.add component, and then the component I need to add is the game manager script. Okay, and now I'm done. And actually, I'm not quite done. I need to assign the instance to this class. So I do void awake, which is called before start while the scene is loading or while the object is loading. I'm going to go ahead and say underscore instance equals this. And what that means is that the instance equals this script. Okay, now why did we do this? What is the cool thing about this? Check this out. I'm going to go here in player. Okay, I'm in my player here. And what I'm going to do is in update, when I hit the space key, I'm going to go ahead and call something from my game manager. I'm going to have a public variable here. So public int my age equals 22. Okay. What I want to do is I want to access that variable. Before a singleton, I had to get a handle to the game manager, assign that handle to the component, and then access the handle dot my age, right? Well, with a singleton, I can simply just do this. I can say debug.log, and then what do I want? I want here, when I hit the space key, I'm going to debug a message. So if input.getKey, and actually I'm going to do get key down, keycode.q. When I hit the Q key, I'm going to print the message of my age. So I say debug.log. I need to access the game manager. Well, I can simply do it by just like this. I can say debug.logs game manager instance, and then dot, and it returns every public information in that script. And you'll see my age is located right there. No need for a handle and no need for anything else. This is going to allow me to get information about that script, but I can't change any information. So like I can't change necessarily I can't change the information of the instance. The instance is always this. I can change the value of that bool, or I'm sorry, that float value, but I can't change what instance is. And you'll see here when I type instance, by instance it says get. So I can get information from here. So I could say here game manager.instance.myage. Right? And watch this. When I run this game, notice there is no game manager in the scene view. Okay, there's no game manager, but as soon as I hit the Q key, a game manager game object got instantiated, and it got my script added, and my age is 22, and then it debug.log 22. This is huge on mobile performances because you don't need to use this information, and you don't even need to have this active in your project until you call on it. So that's what lazy instantiation is. Singletons are really cool. They're great for managers. And that's how I'm going to wrap up singletons. So back to our project with the whole game manager. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to erase this, and I need the game manager to tell me the states. I need to know if the boxes are in the correct place. So what I'm going to do in this game manager is I'm going to have a few variables. I'm going to have public bool box 1 correct, public bool box 2 correct, and public bool box 3 correct. Okay. So what I need to do now is based on the box 1, 2, and 3, I need to set those variables true, right? So in check square, I need to turn them true. So if correct box, I need to say what box. So name to check for. All right, and this is actually where it might get a little tricky. I need to know what box I'm on. The way I can do that is wait, trying to see here. Let's see, because now I need to access the game manager rules. I don't know which one I'm necessarily on. I guess I can switch through them. So what I can do is if other.name equals name to check for, and then I can just check if the name to check for. Here I can say if here I'll switch. I'm going to do a switch statement, and I'm going to switch between name to check for. So if case is box 1, what do I want to do? I want to say game manager dot instance dot box 1 correct equals true, and that's going to set that bool true. All right, and then I have to. It's a case, so I have to break it. And I'm going to go ahead and take this. Take this. All right, so it's going to be box 2 and box 3. Oh, okay, guys, hold on. It's actually not going to let me do the switch statement of name to check for because it's a variable. It needs to be a hard-coded, and actually, I don't think it does. 1 second. Break. Oh, I'm missing, my bad. I'm missing a. Okay, here we go. So here's our switch statement. So box 1, box 2, and box 3. Okay, so if it's box 1, then set instance true, true, true. All right, so let's go ahead and just test this. Let's see if the game manager gets instantiated and if it works. Let me just check. Anyone have any questions? Anything that's going on? If not, I'm going to keep going. Maybe on Facebook, I'll post an explanation on DGI's Facebook page for singletons because they are a great tool. All right, so here we go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and run this. If the box gets in the right position, okay, it should set the game manager into action. And check that out. The box is in the right position. Game manager got called. Box 1 correct. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and do it with the other. So red, white, and get white over here. Okay, so it's not the correct box. Box 2. Over here. Okay, box 2 is correct. And then box 3 is correct. All right, some of the triggers might be colliding at the moment, but that's really okay. What matters is that they're somewhat aligned. In a game, you really probably don't want to be so, 100% accurate because chances are the player won't get it 100% accurate. Also, this is just a demo of the concept, so deal with it. What we have here is all 3 are checked. Now, what happens if all 3 are checked? I need to trigger this animation here. So if all 3 are checked, the trigger zone needs to be animated. So I have a trigger here of open door, and I have a transition. I need to call that. I need to call this transition. Here's my door game object, okay, and it has an animator on the door game object. So what I need to do is I need access to this door. I need access to the door, and then I need to get the animator component. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do this from the game manager. All right, I'm going to go ahead and so what I'm going to do here is simply, although no, that's going to set them all. 1 second. You know, we're not going to do it in the game manager actually. We're going to have a separate script that activates the door. That works. Let's see here. There we go. So we're just going to say door. I'm going to put it on the door game object. And what I need to do now is I need to get access to the animator controller that has my animations. All right, so I say private animator. Come on, guys, my model develop. It's very synced. All right, let's see here. Private. Just forgot. Oh yeah, okay. Animator _ anim. Right, and what I need to do now is I need to get the actual controller. So I say anim equals get component and then animator. All Right now I have access to my animations. What I'm going to do here, guys, is when this function gets called, I'm going to basically say, I'm going to have a public function here. We'll say, actually, you know what? I will do it from the game manager. I'm going to use the door script too. Check this out. I'm going to do it from the game manager. In here, I'm going to have a custom function, and it's going to be void player wins. All right. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have a bool that's going to be private. So actually, no, we'll make it public. Public bool player one. Player wins. All right. So when that goes true, this function here, player wins. The only thing it does has one function. Okay, has one job. It says player wins equals true, and then from here, it's going to from here it's going to trigger the animation. So I'm actually not going to use this door script, guys. So I'm not going to use the door script. I need to get access to that door. So I'm actually going to do that in let's start. I'm sorry, I need to get access to the door game object. So what I'm going to do here is and actually, you know what? I guess, no, I'm not going to do that. Private animator anim. All right, and that anim component is going to be for the door. Say door animation. Door animation, void start, door animation. Door animation equals, we have to find the object. Okay, I can't just say get component. Remember, we're on the game manager now. So I got to say door animation equals, I got to find the object, and I believe the name was just door. And then I want to get the animator component. All right, so we got that. And all I'm going to do now is player wins equals true. This bool here really doesn't do anything, but it can be used for if I have a GUI label that should display saying winner or something like that. I can check for this bool, and it will allow me to display some GUI event or something like that. But what I'm going to do after displaying the player wins equals true is we're going to say door anim dot set trigger. Right? And you'll see here it says string name, the name of the trigger. So what did I name it? Open door. So open door animation dot set trigger, open door. All right, so let's go ahead and test it out. So if I get these correct, I'm going to go ahead and put that one. All right, game manager. Let's go and click on that. Here it is, box one correct. All right, and if I go ahead and put this one in 2, it should say nothing should happen. Yeah, so if box 2 is incorrect, notice nothing's happening. So I'm going to go and just kick it out of the way for a second. I'm going to go ahead and put the white one in the right place. The box 2. Oh my God. All right, I don't think it matters because I'm just going to restart it, guys. All right, here we go. So let's get red in the right place. All right, red's good. And now let's get box 2. Oh yeah, right. Okay, let's get the white. Okay, here we go. All right, box 2 is in the right place. Now we need box 3. Please do not fall off the edge. No, oh my God, I can't get it. Okay. Oh yeah, saved it. All right, one second, guys. Okay, box 3 correct. So what's going to happen now is I don't think I ever called the function player wins, did I? No, I didn't. I never called public void player wins. So what I need to do now is I need to call that from somewhere. So somewhere I need an update. There's no avoiding, I guess, the update method right now. I tried to avoid it, but it looks like I might not be able to. Game manager, we can have the game manager check it. He can check it. So in game manager, the only thing in his update is going to be if oh yeah, thank you, Elias. Yeah, you know what? That might make it a little bit more smooth if I disable the rotations on the boxes. Thank you. Yes. So guys, the way you do that, by the way, is just go down here to constraints, freeze rotation on the X, Y, and Z. Thank you, Elias. Okay, so back to the game manager here. The only thing we're going to do is we're just going to check to see if all of them are true. So the way I can do that, guys, is I can say if and actually, I want to show you guys something here. This is a really cool trick you can do when you're checking multiple things like this. You can actually say here, private bool, or here, you know what? We have a bool player wins, right? So check this out. Let's use that. We have a public bool player wins. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and say, I'm going to bring it down here just a bit. I'll do it here. Public bool player wins equals box 1. All right, we're going to say box 1 correct equals box 2 correct equals 2 equal signs. Box 3 correct equals true. Player wins equals box 1 correct equals box 2 correct equals box 3 correct. I think you should just, boxes would move a bit better that way. Yeah, I agree. They would move a lot better. I'm trying to think of this method here. Player wins equals box 1 correct equals box 2 correct equals box 3 correct. Oh yeah, okay. And this should work. So guys, what this says here is that player wins equals box 1 correct value equals box 2 correct value equals box 3 correct values. So if these three all have the same value, then player wins should become true. If that doesn't work, then I'll just redo it, but it should work. And it's not. Okay, of course, it didn't like that. So scratch that, guys. I have to do update. Here we go. So I just need to check the bools, guys. So if box 1 correct is true, and box 2 correct, and box 3 correct. All right, what do I want to do? I just want to say, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, I'm going to call the player wins functions. I'm going to say player wins. I'm actually going to set that back to void. Player wins. Make it private. So here we go. So player wins. All right, if box 1 correct, right? Now it's going to loop this though. This is going to get constantly called because it's all true. So after player wins, I'm just going to say box 1 correct equals false. Oh, here, this time I can do this. I can say box 1 correct equals box 2 correct equals box 3 correct, which equals false. And that will set everything to false. All right. So let's go ahead and test this out. And son of a bitch. What is it not like? Oh, okay. Function name is wrong. Player wins. I think you should boxes select. I think that should be inside an if statement in the update. Yes, thank you. Boxes would move a bit better. Yes, they would. Okay. Glad we have people paying attention. All right, here we go. So player wins. Let's go ahead and test this out, and everything should work as planned. Ready? Here we go. All right, so red box first. All right, here's our game manager. Red box and check. Blue box, push it right there. Let's go and get our white box here. All right, white box is in place. Over here to the blue. So we got red, white, and the blue, and there you go. There you go. We got all three of them, and then the gate opened up, and I can go through it. All right, and it looks like the trigger zone for box 3 was a little, oh yeah, okay, it's just a little far back, so it clipped it. But there you go. So you guys get the idea. This is the completed puzzle. There is obviously some cleanups you can do, like for instance, you know, right now, like obviously, once this game manager comes, right now box 1 correct is true. However, you'll notice if I were to put it in box 2, it says not the correct box, yet box 1 is still false. So what you can do, maybe if you want, I can post this maybe as a public thing. I haven't decided yet. But, in the future, what I could do is I could clean it up. I can clean it up and I can say, okay, if this box is here, then obviously it's not there. I can check which box it is. And actually, that might not be too hard. I'll go ahead and do that real quickly. I think I can just do that with a switch statement, just like we're doing already. You'll see here, game manager. Sorry, the check square. Yeah, you'll see here if other.name equals to check name for, and then else, not the correct box. Based on the name it is, I can just set that box to false. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this here. And we're going to go ahead and say, so name to check for, if it's box 1, right? So that means that box 1's not in the right place. We just need to go ahead and say false, all. And that should work. Let's test that out. So let's see, let's get the spawn manager. Okay, game manager. All right, so box 1 isn't showing the, wait a minute. Oh, okay, that's fine. Hold on. Something set the box false instantly. I need to make sure these trigger zones aren't touching each other. Okay, let's see. Okay, box 1 correct, good. All right, I'm gonna head over here now to box 2 trigger, which is the white box. I'm gonna go over here. All right, you'll see on the game manager, I don't know if it's gonna collide with it just yet, is it? Yeah, okay, it already did collide. Let's see here on the game manager. Okay, no, it didn't, good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this. All right, right now it's obviously not in the right place. So what I'm going to do here, and actually real quickly, just to test the first one, let's go ahead and move box 1 to box 2 spot, and there you go, box 1 became incorrect. See that? But as soon as I put it back, it becomes correct again. So now we have a working puzzle. And I'll go ahead and move this over here. Box 2 correct, and let's go and get box 3. And now this is completely finished. And actually, if I wanted to too, because you notice the animation happens very quickly, like instantly. See that? That wasn't terrible. What I can do though, if I wanted to really, I could actually add a on-trigger exit. Oh yeah, you're right. Yes, Elias mentioned I could just use on-trigger exit. Yes, I could have. I just decided to use the else statement that I have because I know that if that else statement's wrong, it means it's the wrong box. But on-trigger exit would have worked as well, because actually, if you remove it from the box. If you actually, you might need to still do Elias's way, because if you do on trigger exit, if you, for instance, let me go ahead and show you. If I were to put it in the game manager here, right? So player 1 is correct, but if I knock this off the floor now, oh, actually, you know what? Oh, actually, it still works. So you might not need on trigger enter. I thought you would, but apparently not. Let me try this one. Okay, so box 2 is correct, and then if I take box 2 out, oh, that's because it hits another box, I guess. Or let me see. I'm not sure what is causing that. Let's do this. Okay, so box 3 is correct. Okay, yeah, you're right. So you do need on trigger enter. So I'm sorry, you do need on trigger exit. You'll see there that if I move the box later, it doesn't work. And that's really easy to do as well, guys. In your check square here, what I can do is I'll just add on trigger exit. So void on trigger exits and collider there. Right, I'm just doing the same thing here, guys. I'm just saying switch name to check for. Really simple stuff. Switch, so if it's box 1, then obviously box 1 correct is false. So now this should all work. Let's go ahead and test it out. right, so game manager. Okay, so box 1 is correct. And if I move it out, right, and it says box 1 not correct. And let's try the blue one because that's all the way at the end. So not correct. All right, you'll see here. I didn't even hit his trigger. Okay, so box 3 is correct right now, and let's go ahead and just knock it off the cliff. And there you go. All right, now we have a perfect working puzzle. What I was going to say is if I wanted to, and actually I wasn't sure if there was that much of a delay with the animation being played. It actually looks like you get plenty of time to watch it happen before it happens, which is perfect. So I'm going to actually just keep it the way it is. Put this white one here. And let's see. This one, final place. Alrighty, and our door is opened and we go through. All right, guys, I appreciate everyone checking this out who did, even if it was only, I think there was one point where we had 9 people in here. It was 1:30 when I announced this, or it was like, I'm sorry, it was like 12:30 when I announced this. But if you guys like this, comment on the DGI thing. And if you'd like me to do regular stuff like this, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, I'll gladly do it. My life revolves around programming right now, so this is pretty much all I do. I don't have time for necessary video tutorials anymore. It requires a lot of planning because I do this for a living. So, but I hope you guys enjoy watching this stuff, and I will talk with you guys later. Take care, Elias. Thanks for coming.